Welcome to Inspiration Rising. My name is David Trotter. I'm a transformation coach dedicated to inspiring women and the men who support them to rise up in life, love, and leadership. Today, I want to share with you an excerpt of my interview with Kate Crocco. She's the author of Thinking Like a Boss, Uncover and Overcome the Lies Holding You Back from Success. Now, this complete interview is part of a free online resource that I've created for you called Cultivating Peace in Times of Dis-ease. There are 9 exclusive interviews with 9 female thought leaders who I asked to share their wisdom in response to the fear and anxiety of the coronavirus. You can access this entire free online resource at insporising.com/peace. That's insporising.com/peace. Now, Kate is a psychotherapist and a confidence and mindset coach who mentors female leaders around the globe. And I ask her how she thinks this experience of social distancing is going to impact us.
I think this is going to be a time where people who are really susceptible to comparing on social media or just giving into the hype of things on social media, like you're really going to need to distance yourself from the phone. And I think it's important that you start to if you're on social media, you start to unfollow accounts, or even in your personal life, you may need to start to sort of unfollow relationships and unfollow conversations. I had some clients that I got together last night on Zoom, and many of them just had this overwhelming feeling of stress because other small business owners are saying how are we going to survive? How are we going to get through this? And it's like they said, this is such a breath of fresh air just being here right now. And rather than giving into that fear, asking ourselves the question of what is this teaching me? And how is this actually going to serve me? And I think that's important, is that we look at the opportunity in it and we start to think a little bit more creatively. We could sit there in fear, but what is that actually going to do? It's going to, stress our family out, our friends out. So just trying to push any of that away, whether it's the news, friends, family, or social media, and just try to focus on how can I find an opportunity out of this to better my family, to better myself, my business, my career. Because I think, a lot of us are going to be stuck at home, and there's things that, maybe we've been wanting to do for a long time and we just haven't had the time to do it. And I almost feel like our nation, our world, we need to sort of have this time of unplugging and being back together and spending this time together again. And it's funny because at the start of the year, I was really, really just craving more intentionality and just more time with my family. And I was sitting and praying about it. I just would love an opportunity to have my kids home, and because they're in daycare a few days a week, and to just really have some quality time with them because they're only little for a little bit.
There are so many of us who are dealing with the loss of income or an entire job, physical distance from friends or family members, and worrying about how this will impact our lives or even our world as a whole. If you've been struggling with negative thoughts about all of this, you are not alone. I asked Kate to help us with some practical tools to overcome the lies we might be prone to believe about ourselves, others, and the world around us. And her daughter Annabelle chimes in as well.
Number one thing is I know it's easier said than done, but don't panic. When we're fearful, we tend to hold our breath. Mama. Hi, baby.
It's Annabelle.
Sure, you can watch too. And I think this is really important, especially for, again, the parents, people who have little children. I have a friend who's a psychotherapist and she works specifically with kids, and she's saying teenagers and middle schoolers, they're more anxious than ever. And it's because they're seeing their parents panic. And, just like little kids pick up that energy, as adults, we pick that up too. So if everyone around us is panicking, everyone is just looking at the worst thing that could happen and not looking at maybe the best thing that can happen or an alternative solution, it's just not serving anyone. So just breathe and believe, like you will come up with a solution. There's always a solution. I think the other thing that we can really start to do is to think of the big picture of life, the big picture of our career, the big picture of our businesses, and just know like someday, and this always helps me is when I can think like really far ahead and say, someday I'm going to look back at this situation and say, like, wow, it was only such a small period of time.
That's true.
Like, because we're just looking ahead right now and we're looking at the worst case scenario, we're thinking like, oh my goodness, weeks home or months home. Like it feels like eternity. But someday, 10, 20 years from now, when we look back, it's just this little tiny window of time. Mm-hmm. So I think like really trying to look at that big picture. And then another thing is just remembering that like everyone is in this with you. Like everyone is struggling right now. Everyone is feeling fear right now. And another piece of this is like, no one is exempt from this. Like no matter who you are, whether you're a millionaire, a billionaire, a middle-class family, lower-class family, like everyone is experiencing fear. So just knowing that, you know, it's normal to feel like this right now. But I think it's important that, again, we look at that big picture. I think another thing that we can really do is embrace the slowdown. So rather than thinking, you know, for me, it's like, oh, like all of these, you know, plans that are now canceled, or, you know, I know you had this big in-person event that you had planned, like, you know, just like harping on that and putting all of your energy in that, like put your energy and embrace the slowdown, like put it into that slowdown. Like, how can I take this extra time that maybe I have? So it's like, maybe I just got laid off from my job, or, you know, maybe I don't have work coming in as quickly as I did before. What are the things that like I've always wanted to do, but I've said like, I'll do that someday when I have more time. Think of those things and start to work on them now. Like maybe it's like going back to school, like doing some e-learning right now. Like maybe it's learning to study a different language. Maybe it's just spending time with your immediate family. Maybe it's writing the book or writing the music, like getting back on the piano, whatever it is that you've been waiting for that slowdown. Like this is your permission right now to just go and do it. And then I think for like the business owners right now also, like this is a really good opportunity to just take a deep dive of your business and say like, what am I doing within the business that maybe is no longer necessary? Like maybe I don't need to do, maybe I can cut back a little bit. You know, I think that for a second, I thought the baby was crying, but it's the little one on her phone. I think that we often like when we're just going in the same direction all the time, we're going, we're doing the same thing every day. Like we sort of lose sight, like we don't have that bird's eye view of what we're doing anymore. Mm-hmm. So I think now that we can sort of step back and take a look from top down, like what is happening in my business? Like what is no longer necessary? What can I cut back on? How can I make this maybe a little bit more simple? How can I also pivot? And then this is the next thing is like, how can I pivot and get creative with my business if you have a business? You know, if you're used to just seeing people in person, if you have a service-based business, like how can I go virtually? And I think this is actually a good lesson for big corporations and every single job and career out there. Like, how can we give more freedom to our workers? And I think it's going to be a good test. Like, I guarantee that after this happens, there's going to be a lot of companies, a lot of just big businesses that are going to say, hey, you know what? This worked out. Like, you guys were fantastic working from home. So we're going to give you that freedom now, and we're going to let you work from home. We're going to give more flexibility. So I see that as an opportunity. For people who do have a 9-to-5. I think that things like healthcare and things like, you know, as a therapist, I think of like mental health care. people are going to start getting even more comfortable with doing telehealth and teletherapy. And I think that, talking about that more, and now it also like insurance, I think of insurance companies, like before not all insurance companies would take telehealth. Like you would only be able to bill when your client was there in front of you. Mm-hmm. I think this is going to make mental health care a lot more accessible to people who don't leave the house and maybe couldn't afford to pay out of pocket for an online type of therapist. Like their health insurance might cover it now. So I think just again, like thinking creatively, like how is this actually going to serve the businesses out there, the corporations out there, the small businesses, and how can we sort of pivot? So like this, my little ones, they go to yoga every Saturday morning, and that's in person. And the yoga instructor decided to put it online, and they had a fantastic yoga session in our living room this morning. So I think, again, just be flexible, just look for the opportunity. Like, what is this teaching me right now? And how is this going to serve me in the future?
What is this teaching me? And how is this going to serve me in the future? Those are two questions that I've been asking myself over the last couple of weeks. On a simple level, I've been washing my hands now more than ever, right? You probably have too. My family and I have been taking walks every evening, and yet we don't need social distancing from others to motivate us to have that type of family time. We can do it whenever. We've cut back on expenses, especially eating out, and I'm continuing to look for ways to support and encourage you. I believe this experience is causing many of us to question the quality of our relationships, the level of meaning or passion in our jobs, and even the direction of our entire lives. These are great questions, and I'm honored to be a transformation coach during this time to support you and give you a fresh perspective. As I mentioned earlier, this is just an excerpt of the inspiring conversation with Kate Crocco, and there are 8 other conversations that you can access for free at insporising.com/peace. This free online resource is called Cultivating Peace in Times of Dis-Ease, and it also includes conversations with Morgan Harper Nichols, Reverend Sarah Heath, Stacey Robbins, Bailey T. Hurley, Lori Beth Aldridge, Dr. Lindsay Elmore, Christy Clover, and Kelsey Chapman. You do not want to miss these inspiring video interviews, and I've also made the audio available to you as well. This is a free online resource. Check it out at insporising.com/peace.